Alright, now that we're a little bit into the ladder being reset, we're still just looking for fun decks to kind of help climb our way up. And so we're going to be playing Great Tusk because we got requested to do so. And Great Tusk is actually pretty fun and in a pretty good spot right now overall, where it has the Land Collapse attack, which for 2 colorless energy, you discard the top card of your opponent's deck, but if you played an Ancient Supporter card from your hand this turn, then you discard 3 more, so you're discarding 4 in total. This is pretty good because we have decent Ancient Supporter options, so Professor Sada's Vitality is very good. It allows us to not only power up our Great Tusk, but also draw some cards and discard up to 4 once we're actually attacking. And then same thing with Guidance, where we're allowed to look at the top 6 cards of our deck, put 2 of them in our hand, and then discard the rest, allowing us, again, also then to attack with Great Tusk and discard 4. We are playing 1 copy of Xerosic Machinations, since what can end up happening is your opponent kind of gets a large hand, because they're saving up with an Iono. You want to be able to cut that down. But this card is cuttable, but I like to have it. I also like to run 1 copy of Boss's Orders in addition to the 4 Counter Catcher, just to set up for later stages, since sometimes these will get discarded, and you can use your Pal Pad to always get the Boss's Orders back, take a turn off from mass discarding to set up your lock for later. We're playing the Neutralization Zone, mostly so that way if our opponent overcommits on their own stadiums, or if for whatever reason they don't have any single prize attackers or anything like that, then we can just kind of win the game outright. And we're also running 2 copies of Gravity Gemstone in order to help retreat lock our opponent, make it a little bit harder, and kind of be able to discard for free. One other win condition that we do have is the Nacli. With the corner attack, we're already playing Fighting Energy, so we may as well. And really what this will allow us to do is just lock something in the active for a very long amount of time and just force our opponent to kind of deck themselves out that way, and so it works out pretty well. We do play Accompanying Flute, so that way if our opponent is trying to refuse to bench things, we can grab one of their basic Pokemon to throw down and be equally annoying with. But yeah, that's kind of the list and strategy, so I will see you guys all in game number 1 in a second. If you want to try the list out for yourself, it's down in the description, so feel free to try it out. There's also a link to the community Discord, as well as my Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. I don't do anything with it, but you should follow it anyway. Because I might do something with it in the future, and then you'll know. But yeah, just about it. We'll go into game number 1 in just a second, but I do want to give a special shout out to the channel members. Thank you guys so much for that additional level of support. Really does go a long way, and it means a lot, so thank you guys so much for that. There'll be a members only video coming out sometime this week of just the rest of my kind of climb towards Masters that I'll do, you know, obviously not filming or anything like that. But yeah, that's just about it. For everybody else, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in game number 1 in a second. Peace. Alright, we're into game number 1, and our opponent's going to be going first. We see Fighting Sleeves. That's interesting. We get our Dunsparce. Honestly, this hand is not that bad. Obviously, we won't be able to use the Dunsparce right away. Ooh, it's probably... Seeing that makes me feel like it's Mamoswine. That's pretty cool. So what we'll do is we'll go Earthen Vessel, get rid of whatever we draw, unless it's something we really want. Then we'll probably get rid of like the Counter Catcher or something. Then we'll use Ultra Ball to get ourselves a Great Tusk. I don't really love getting rid of this, but it's what I'm going to have to do. Yeah. Grab that. We'll go Ultra Ball here, get rid of this and this to grab ourselves a Great Tusk. Then we'll go Great Tusk down, Vitality, plus ourselves up 3. We can go Nest Ball for a new... I'm actually going to go for a new Dunsparce here. So that way that's already prepped when I go to Dunsparce on the next turn. And then I can go Land Collapse, where we hit a Rare Candy, a Mamoswine, and a Paloswine. That's pretty good. Can't complain there. On the next turn, we'll be able to go to Dunsparce and hopefully draw ourselves into something new. It does not matter that they went boss's orders there. They are forced to Super Rod early to put the Mamoswine back into the deck. We see a Fighting Energy come out on the Quaxwell. I hate this line so much because my boy Quaxley is a absolute unit and then gets just progressively uglier. Alright, we'll evolve this one since that way we can keep this in the active if we need it. We do actually end up with a Vitality, but unfortunately we have no way of discarding the energy that we'd want to, but what we can do is retreat, bring this in, go land collapse anyway, just get rid of the top one. We hit the Mamoswine again, that's pretty big. Really it doesn't matter that much, but it's just that if our Great Tusk does get knocked out, we will have the energy in the discard pile to be able to use our, with the energy in the discard pile from the Great Tusk getting knocked out, we'll be able to use the Vitality. We also will be able to use the Grand Tree in order to make our Dudunsparces every turn, so that's kind of exciting. There's the Mamoswine into the Mamoswine. They can use Mamoswine to find themselves the, you know, Quaxaquill or whatever it's called. They choose to retreat. They bring in Mamoswine. Mammoth Hauler. I think they attached an energy for the turn, but I don't remember. They did, so they shouldn't be able to power this up on this turn, I don't believe. Let me read you. Up tempo. What does it do? You must put a card from your hand to the bottom of your deck in order to use the ability. During your turn, you draw cards until you have 5 cards in your hand. Okay. So that's going to be their, you know, their draw engine. Interesting to get rid of double Arven. So I'm guessing they have Iono or something in hand. If we could bump this stadium, that would be great. The fact that we didn't get KO'd is minorly annoying. But again, we will be able to Grand Tree to our Dudunsparce, so take advantage of that. We'll go Runaway Draw, where we just get ourselves more stuff we actually can't use, which is a little annoying, to be honest. We'll go Accompanying Flute. That's also fine. Again, none of this is super ideal, but I guess we'll go 1 energy down. Let's go land collapse again. We get rid of a fighting energy, not very impactful, but, you know, boss being discarded earlier was nice. A lot of what we have, we need, you know, we need to get KO'd before it starts to matter, is really our biggest problem. We see a single fighting energy come out. Grand Tree will make another... Oh, wait. We got rid of their other Mamoswine, so it will not. Because they're only running 2. I kind of assumed... I kind of was just, like, thinking maybe they'd run 3. There's another Quaxley. Ultra Ball. A Luxray and another Mamoswine away for the... Wait, why? Unless they have Rare Candy in hand? Potentially. I mean, this is working for me, but it's also kind of funny. Alright, cool. We get rid of that. What does this do? Once during your turn, you attach a basic energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon. Okay. I mean, I'm fine with this, because at least now they're actually going to start trying to, like, KO my Pokemon, which I literally need to have happen. So, you know, any day now, buddy. I don't think this build of Mamoswine is very good. Okay, that Iono's slightly annoying. It's fine. The outcome's gonna end up being pretty much the same. Because I can go Pokégear for a Vitality if I needed to. There's the March. They finally take a KO, which opens up my counter catcher. We could counter catch to a Swinub, force them to need a couple different options, but I'm gonna go into this first. We'll go Pokégear here. We hit a Machinations. I'm actually fine holding on to that. We'll go one more, see if we hit the Vitality. Unfortunately, we don't, but that's okay. Go Guidance here. We'll add Vitality and a counter catcher to hand just to continue to be annoying and disrupt resources. We'll go Energy down and then Land Collapse, where we hit a bunch of rare candies, and hitting the rare candies knowing that the Mamoswine is out of the deck is huge for us because it's 3 down. Meaning if they use 1 for any of these, we counter catch the extra Swinub on the bench and just kind of go from there. That works as well. We see Grand Tree come out. That does nothing. The only thing that we need to have happen on this upcoming turn... Okay, so there's the final rare candy. That's why this is going to matter, because now it's going to require them to have 2 energy in hand every turn to actually utilize the Swinub. The Artazon is great for us. That was very bad for them to play. Mostly for the idea that if we ended up not getting into a basic, we were going to struggle, because on the next turn, they're about to knock us out, right? So then Great Tusk comes in, and if we don't have another basic, we do lose no matter what. Which is obviously a huge problem. So the fact that they have Artazon, like they played that down for us, is great, especially because it literally does nothing for them. Alright, we knew this was getting made, which will allow them to have energies, like to be able to move around. But the biggest mistake they're about to make... Wait, why'd they do that? I was going to say the biggest mistake they're about to make is powering up this other Mamoswine. Because they need energies in hand, so that way Swinub can function. Yeah, so like, if this wasn't here right now, like if the Artazon wasn't here, I'd have to go Pokégear right away. In this case, we'll literally just grab this Swinub. We'd have to go Pokégear in order to thin our deck out. Pokemon, let me draw. Hey, game. Let me draw cards. Yo, it's so crazy how bad this client is. Like, supporter cards just don't work. Alright, there we go. We were able to... I love that it's timing me out. It's like, your game is not functioning. Do not blame me. So, then what we can do is... We'll go Ultra Ball here. We can get rid of this, and we'll get rid of the Artazon, because one's already down. Use that to grab ourselves a copy of Dunsparce, so that way we'll have access to Dunsparce Vitality on the next turn, because all we need is a single land collapse. We get rid of their Iono, so they can't reshuffle. They'll need 2 energy in hand in order to retreat this, or a switch, which I doubt they have. And even if they come in with Mamoswine to knock us out, we will be able to, you know, just attack with the upcoming Great Tusk anyway. Hitting the rare candies earlier, as well as hitting the Mamoswine twice, was very impactful. But I also feel like this build is not optimal for Mamoswine. I feel like you definitely want Pidgeot. I feel like Pidgeot's definitely the way to go. At least it's your draw engine. Like, I think this is totally fine. Blaziken could arguably be a little better. Alright, but we bring in Great Tusk. And just for the memes, we're not even going to bother playing about the Vitality. We're just going to go Land Collapse, get rid of the last one, pass, and take game one. Arguably, Blaziken would be a little better, but it does, I mean, that does give you an option to attack into Cornerstone if you need to, but I don't think you're playing the Water Energy anyway, you're just playing Fighting. So, and to, yeah, I don't know. I feel like Blaziken might be better. I don't think this is the most optimal build of Mamoswine possible, but it is what it is. We'll jump into game number 2 in a second, and I'll see you guys there. Peace. Alright, we're into game number 2, and our opponent's going to be going first. We open some copies of Dunsparce, which is not terrible. I'm not sure what we would be able to open here that would, like, really help us. Looks like we're up against a Salamence deck of some kind. I mean, we'll Nest Ball for Great Tusk. We can go Earthen Vessel, get rid of something in order to get ourselves some energy. We'll have Dudunsparce for a future turn. Zone isn't bad, actually. We'll be able to go Nest Ball here, like I said, for the Great Tusk. We could arguably go for a Tatsugiri play, but I just want to be able to get into stuff. I'm going to Earthen Vessel away 1 Flute to go double energy, and then I'll attach 1 for the turn, and then pass. On the next turn, we'll be able to go to Dunsparce. We can start discarding stuff if we need to. I really want to wait until they put resources into the Salamence. After that, I'll be able to go Zone. I'm not really worried about the Pheasantipity. Honestly, this is just something that I can trap later on. Since I'm not taking prize cards anyway, it doesn't really matter. We see an Artazon that's actually not bad for us. That's going to be able to grab us our Nacli later on if that's something we need. They can go Badoo if they want to retreat and start trying to Badoo lock us, but honestly, that's fine. I don't really care that much. Because again, I will have Artazon available to get myself more Great Tusks, get myself, you know, my Dunsparces back and things of that nature. We see Earthen Vessel TM Evo. This can get them potentially another Natu, or Zatu rather, if they have a way to get that, or they can just go for the Bagon. They're going to retreat, go Badoo, and then look to TM Evo on the next turn. Itchy Pollen, not that big a deal. We get a counter catcher. I'm going to go Artazon first onto for the Great Tusk. So that way that is taken care of. And then I will go for the Dunsparce play. Go Runaway Draw. Where I get myself another energy. Which is fine. I can Ultra Ball that away, but I don't really get anything right now. So I'm fine to go Dunsparce here again. And I guess attach an energy and pass. There's not really a whole lot I can honestly do. We don't have any energy in the discard pile. And we don't really have a way to get it there while we're item locked. We can play a slow game, though, because, again, we do have the zone. We're gonna just look to keep retreat locking the Fez and Dippity as the game goes on. We don't need the accompanying flutes anymore. Yeah, I feel like the play is gonna be to Artazon for Nacli after we get KO'd. And then just bring in the Fez, attack that for, you know, a period of time. Especially if we see them use their switch early. Or even if they choose to discard it, which they do, that's huge for us. There's their Salamence EX. We'll see if they have a rare candy. They do. They could come in and... Oh, okay, they can't Dragon Impact. So they are forced to go for the Wing Blast. Does this only target... Oh, it's only benched Pokemon. Okay, that's actually interesting. So we'll get rid of this, and we'll get rid of the Accompanying Flute. We can grab ourselves a copy of the Dunsparce. Place this down. We'll Artazon for Dunsparce for right now, because again, we can always go Nacli later. We'll go Runaway Draw, where we do hit a Vitality, so we can bring this in, go Vitality, power this up, place that down, and we can go... we'll actually leave all this. Let's go Land Collapse, where we hit some energy, which is nice. We hit a Research, which is good, and a Bagon as well. We have a couple turns before this matters, and then also they are currently unable to knock out our Great Tusk. We see a Crispin. If they have a Water Energy and then they go Dragon Impact here, that would be minorly annoying, but it looks like they're just going to go for the Azoth play as a way to attack into the active. I want to switch the Great Tusks around. Would be, like, the most optimal thing for me to do here. I'll go Guidance. I want to grab this. And I can actually grab I can grab both of these and that'll be fine. I'm going to want the Gravity Gemstone for later, again, just to start retreat locking that. Obviously, it'd be very nice if I could get into... We'll put these back in the deck. Actually, I won't be able to retreat this. I thought I would. Alright, we'll go Artazon. Actually, we'll do that later. I'll go Dunsparce down. We'll go Land Collapse. We get rid of the Arven. So they'll take 2 prizes here, or 1, depending on what they choose to do. You know, those are kind of their main things. But from here, we will have access to. Okay, they have the Iono. A little bit annoying, but not that big a deal. Okay, honestly, that works out totally fine. That's more or less the same outcome. We see the Xatu come into play. One of the other things that's nice too is that Xatu will only work on benched Pokemon. So if we move their Fez into the active, they're not going to be able to like quickly remake it, which helps us. They take 2 prizes. We would love the counter catcher, obviously, but right now that's not going to be an option, but it's okay. We'll go Great Tusk here. Our opponent is running out of, you know, tools to be able to use. We'll go Gravity Gemstone. Obviously, we would love to be in a position to get rid of the Dudunsparce here. We'll go Zone down for now, just to help kind of protect things, just for a turn. We do have the Nacli as well, which is something we're going to be relying on later on, because again, they are getting low in prize cards, so if we can go Nacli and trap the Fez, that would be ideal. Right now, they need a way around Zone, which they can retreat out the Salamence and bring in Azelf, but if that's the play they make, then that's also, again, totally fine for us. Yep, they don't have a way around Zone. And this just gives us more time. It allows us to go Vitality here. Attach to both. We get to Dunsparce, which will allow us to draw a little bit deeper in our deck, which isn't incredibly important, but it just stops us from giving up a prize card. We'll go Land Collapse, where we hit the Legacy Energy and a Rare Candy, as well as a Boss's Orders, which is nice, because they could use the boss to potentially try to get around the Nacli. But they're going to have to make a call on knocking out this Great Tusk in the active. So they either need to remove the zone itself, or... actually, it doesn't matter. They're going to deck themselves out. Ooh, they go Iono. I mean, I guess that makes sense. I saw one earlier, or I thought I did. Yeah, I did. But it makes sense that they'd have one more. They can retreat here and bring in the Zatsu. Which is the choice they are going to make. Which is fine by us. We see a Super Rod for triple energy. They go down to 3 prizes. And from here, this is the point where we want to find if we can get an energy and go into our Nacli, that would be best case scenario. We'll go Pal Pad to get ourselves more chances at the Vitality. And we'll hold on to this because, again, I really want to be able to get myself into Boss's Orders. We get rid of the Arven. If I have to get rid of Zone, I can. I'm not as worried about that. But the main thing now is I just need Boss Energy Nacli. And I can guarantee that with a Nest Ball on my next turn. I can go Ultra Ball to guarantee myself the Dunsparce. And if I can start getting the attacks off with Fez, I will be fine. There's the ult. There's options out of this, but this is going to be a little hectic. Ideally, I top deck into, like, Boss's Orders right here. Okay. Top deck into Vitality, which makes things a little bit rougher. But we'll go Great Tusk here. for Vitality, we'll go Earthen Vessel on Machinations. Get ourselves double energy. We do have 2 Counter Catcher in deck. So I think the play here is like we go Earthen Vessel, get rid of both of these, to grab ourselves the Nacli. We put the Nacli down. Go to Dunsparce. We go Runaway Draw, where we do get our Counter Catcher. That's huge. Alright, so now we can go Nacli. Bring this in. Energy down. And start to stall. Because they will have no retreat tool, and with the neutralization zone down, they won't be able to KO the Nacli. Even if they attach energies to the Pheasantipity. So I think that the game is over. Unless they play a second switch, or if they have Tauros in hand that we're unaware of. There's Clairvoyant Sense. Yeah, I don't think they have a way out. The main thing now is that what I want to do is get myself into a position that I can, one, you know, not deck myself out, but really if I can find a Super Rod, which I should have in my deck, I can put the energies back in. There's corner. While leaving 1 energy. So that way I can attach 2 more energy to this. Retreat it out, go Great Tusk, and deck the rest of them out. If in some regard they're able to not only switch this, but bring in Salamence and get rid of the zone, which I don't think they'll be able to do, but just in case they are, we do have boss and a counter catcher to again play around it, but we just want to give ourselves the best chances as possible. So we'd love to find either an energy to work with or super rods, but it's fine. Again, we can play this slow game. I don't think my opponent has an out at all, so I don't think it's gonna matter. What we'll end up doing here is continuing to lock this up into the point where we're about to KO it if they go like Iono to continue to stall, and then we just pull up the Xatu instead. So we can just keep this going. This is where if we get a Pal Pad, which actually we don't have anymore, I was going to say, if we get a Pal Pad, this is where like Machinations would come in. There's our Super Rod play. So we'll throw these back into the deck. Continue to use the corner. And the Xatu is something that we literally cannot KO because we'll never be doing enough damage. I don't want to place that down because then I'd have to power it. We'll get one more attack off on the Fez. And this will be game unless they have an Iono. We'll see if they do. But I don't believe they will. And so, yep, there's why we play the Nacli. That was one of the things, like, being able to just have Nacli in the background makes it so convenient. There's really, once my opponent made a mistake of getting rid of their switch early, but I think that's because they weren't expecting it, because I don't think anyone's really running Nacli in their builds, but you really should. Just the ability, like, yeah, if you get it in your opening hand and then it's like just stuck in the active, it kind of sucks, but that's also why we play like the one copy of Gen Energy to get around it. But for moments like that, like, it's so impactful. Your opponent's not only getting decked out throughout the game because you're already playing, but like they're forced to use their resources, you're trapping a whole bunch of stuff, and yeah, Nacli's just, or Nacli or whatever, is super, super clutch. So definitely recommend having that in pretty much any deck. If you're playing Fighting Energy, you may as well just throw one in, because you never know when it's going to be super useful. But yeah, that's going to be it for game number 2. I will see you guys all in the breakdown in a second. Peace. When looking at the breakdown of Great Tusk Mill, I really like this deck in terms of something that's just kind of fun to play. But in terms of the fun factor, obviously this is always going to be subjective. But I think for me, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 rather than a 5 out of 5. Typically just because I really like playing it, but I don't want to play it a lot. Like, I'm not going to play 10 games of this deck. I'm probably only going to play, like, you know, 3 or 4. But while I'm doing it, I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So I just, you know, think that's the kind of caveat. In terms of power, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. You're never really actually attacking, so the power of it is minimal, but it's not non-existent. You can actually use the Giant Tusk attack if necessary, and sometimes it becomes necessary. Also, just the power alone of Nacli trapping something is kind of broken. So, you know, gotta at least give it a star for that. Going into consistency, I feel like the deck is very consistent at doing what it wants to do and getting itself set up and not really having too many issues in that regard, but there are still some issues that you run into. The reliance on having an energy in the discard pile in order to use your vitalities, if you don't get the right setup, can be a little bit difficult and can be a little cumbersome. So I'm going to put that at a 4 for the consistency of the deck. I think that there's ways to make it, you know, a little bit more consistent in some aspects, but I don't know. I feel like you could cut the Nacli and things like that to add more consistency cards, but I think the value of Nacli outweighs it. I'd rather be a little bit less consistent, but a little stronger, if that makes sense. Going into matchups, I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. I think because you can Nacli trap things, that improves a lot of your matchups, especially because, in my personal opinion, I feel like the Nacli, or I think it's Nacli is how I'm supposed to be saying it, but whatever. The Nacli isn't typically run in this deck, and so you can catch a lot of people off guard and kind of make them second guess what they're willing to play down and what they're willing to do, especially in best of 3 games. But I think that it can obviously struggle because some decks can just clear you before it matters. So if they're, you know, if you're going up against decks that don't really have to worry about getting decked out before they're able to actually manage your resources, it can be pretty annoying, especially because you do take a little bit of time to like set up and get going, and you also are at risk of kind of decking yourself out sometimes because of the resources you need to use. So I think just consistency wise, it's like not really the best. Decks like Dracopult are going to run you over. Decks like Gardevoir are going to be really hard to deal with. So a lot of your matchups depend on hitting key cards from the milling. And some decks don't really, there's not enough cards for you to get rid of to truly affect their strategy in comparison to others. So that really is what is the burden of the matchups that you play against. But I think overall it's still fine and pretty enjoyable. So as a whole, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. It's definitely a very fun kind of roguish meme deck that I think is still actually pretty powerful and can definitely be a fun control kind of mill way to play the game. But yeah, that's going to be it for the breakdown. Be sure to let me know what you think of the list, any changes that you'd make, and what you would rate the deck. Be sure to let me know what you want to see in a future video, and yeah, I'm happy to do the requests and things like that, so I will definitely see you guys all in the next video. Peace.